I'm less aggravated and high blood pressure prone than I was 2 days ago when I found out the coach of my football team, who went 8-1 in the last 9 games of the season, was unceremoniously fired by the Miami Dolphins.
What
It was
gives?
a tough moment.
All right, let's get in it. Let's get back to it, because I know the other day we were trying to get you on right away in first blush.
Yeah.
And you, being a well-adjusted man, have calmed down over the last couple of days. But
I've calmed down. I've taken my meds. I've read some critical think pieces. It's an interesting decision. But, the one thing you have to say is that the Miami Dolphins for the last 20 years have always made the right decisions after making, no, that's not the Miami Dolphins. It's a very perplexing situation. And for the life of me, here's what I don't get. They've sort of dismissed the idea that they're going to go after Harbaugh. They've sort of dismissed the idea that they're going to go after Watson. So, I'm trying to understand, was there a plan in place when you decided to fire this guy who was an extraordinarily good coach? Based on the reports I've been reading, and I'm not sure what you guys have been hearing, is a lot of it was just based on their own personal grievances with the fact that Brian was a passionate guy, and apparently that passion and what some called poor communication skills with ownership got in the way of them being all cuddly and kumbaya. And so he's shown the door. I mean, this is the same guy who was a disciple of Bill Belichick, so I don't know what anyone was expecting. But it's just all confusing, really, more than anything.
Beat Belichick, too. Swept him this year, and it beat him 4 out of the 6 times he saw him. That's the first order of business, with due respect to the Bills in the AFC East, is you've got to have somebody who can do that, because without that, and we may find that out on Saturday night if the Bills don't beat Belichick and the Patriots for a second time. That's the first order of business, is sometimes you got to get 2 against this guy,
That's the first order of business. That's what we've been in the short term, or actually long term, over the past couple of years chasing. And it's confounding to me, because obviously the poor start did not put him in a great situation. But when you see how he was able to turn this football team around, how he was able to somehow get through to a group of players who all seemingly had checked out midway through the season, there was so much potential there for greatness. And we're talking about firing a historically, over the past 3 years, winning coach. I believe his record was the 9th best record for a coach in the NFL over that 3-year span. So the whole thing is just confusing. And I'm reading about some of the guys that they're talking about sitting down with, and they're all great. Look, the offensive coordinator for the Bills is obviously great coach. I don't know how I feel about Peterson. I respect him. I think he did a tremendous job with Philly. But I'm just, of the names on the list, none jump out at me as saying, this was worth firing Brian Flores for.
Josh Gad here on the Rich Eisen Show, new show right here on Peacock. Wolf like me, diehard Dolphin fan here on the Rich Eisen Show. Where do you stand on Tua? Do you think that it was a mistake? Do you need to buy a little bit more time to see how you feel about him, or are you deep in the Tuanon cult there in South Florida?
No, I've defended Tua probably more than than most fans in South Florida. Mm-hmm. I think there have been some great pieces written in the Sentinel and in the Herald about the lack of opportunity that Tua has had to succeed. I think historically you see that being a pattern. I mean, let's look at Ryan Tannehill for a second. These same conversations consistently were had about Tannehill's skill set, and look at what he's done in Tennessee. I think that there continues to be the Groundhog Day problems that this organization has had for as long as I've been a fan. No offensive line, no running back, no support. And so when you have, and then you have a bunch of free agents who just aren't doing their jobs. You have a bunch of wide receivers who, other than Waddle, I mean, they either can't stay healthy, or in the case of someone like Albert Wilson, aren't showing up. So I don't know that the blame game of Tua's the problem is the right conversation to be had yet. I think 3 years feels like the right moment to pull the trigger to decide whether or not he's the right fit for this organization. But I'm certainly not on the bandwagon yet of saying, let's get rid of this guy, especially if the alternative means trading away all of your draft assets for a player who, frankly, may or may not even be able to play next year.
Well, the word is one of the reasons why Watson wanted in was because of Flores. So I don't know if that's the way that one went. You know what I mean? Which would be interesting too, because. So go. You have the floor. Go ahead.
I've heard the same thing as you, Rich, and I just read that may not be the case. That he may actually, he may still be willing to sit down with the Dolphins. So I don't know the truth about that. But then you're reading other reports, or you saw on social media yesterday, Xavier Howard with this cryptic social media message that was basically a peace out to the Miami Dolphins. So I don't know if the two things are related. I don't know if I know historically that Brian was a defensive minded guy, and his defense played their butts off for him. So I don't know what the fallout of that's going to be. But this is the problem I have with this decision. It feels like it was a decision that wasn't really thought through. It was just done, maybe not in the moment. Maybe these guys had been pursuing it for a while and planning it for a while, but it just doesn't feel like the steps were taken to come up with the succession plan. And that's the problem that I have.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.